Ujunwa! Bring her bags downstairs. Now.
The music died. Dozens of guests turned toward Ronke. She stood in the middle of the Coca mansion in her orange dress, engagement ring still on her finger, while the man she was supposed to marry held a microphone and humiliated her before his family, friends, and business partners. Nee smiled, a cruel, satisfied smile. Since she thinks she is too important to respect this family, she can leave this house tonight. Then footsteps came from the hallway. Everyone expected the maid to appear carrying Ronke's suitcase. She came back empty-handed. Slowly, Ujunwa untied her white apron, placed it on the table, and walked straight toward the microphone. What she did next would cost her job, her room, and possibly every reference she needed to find another one. But before you hear it, don't leave this story halfway. Tell us in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there right now. And if you enjoy stories where dignity finally fights back, subscribe to the channel. Ujunwa took the microphone, looked directly at Nee. No, sir. The room froze. I will not carry her bags. She removed her staff badge. And from tonight I no longer work for you. 6 weeks earlier, nobody in that house would have believed Ujunwa could say such a thing. Least of all, Ujunwa herself. That Monday morning, Ronke Adeyemi was standing over a table covered with marked-up structural drawings in a consultancy office on Victoria Island. The air conditioner had decided to fight only half the Lego's heat, and somebody's takeaway rice was making the whole conference room smell like lunch at 9:30. Ronke barely noticed. She had a pencil behind one ear, another in her hand, and 3 pages of calculations spread beside the revised drawings for Harbour Crown Residences, a luxury redevelopment project backed by Coca Meridian Properties. Coca, the same surname she was preparing to take after her wedding. The irony was not yet irritating her. Not that morning. Look at this revision again, her supervisor, Mrs. Daniels, said. Ronke leaned closer. Mrs. Daniels was in her 40s, quiet, exact, and famous in the office for returning reports with comments that could wound a person without containing a single rude word. Ronke respected her for that. The parking level opening has been widened, Ronke said. But the supporting review attached to this version still refers to the earlier layout. Exactly. And there are 2 pages missing from the consultant response. Exactly. Ronke sat back. Mrs. Daniels folded her arms. So I cannot sign off on this package. Mrs. Daniels nodded once. Write that plainly. Ronke did. No drama, no accusations, no speech about safety or professional courage. She wrote that the revised package required further technical clarification and could not be approved by her in its present form. Then she saved the note, attached it to the internal review record, and sent the formal query through the office system. At 11:15, Nee called. Ronke saw his name on her phone and smiled before answering. That was the difficult part about what came later. There had been real tenderness before the rot showed its full face. Engineer Adeyemi, he said. His voice had that polished, teasing tone he used when he wanted to make her laugh. Executive Director Coca. So formal. You called me during work. Ah, my mistake. Should I book an appointment with your secretary to speak to my fiancée? You should start by having a secretary. I have 3. That explains why none of them knows where you are. He laughed. Ronke did too. Then the line shifted. It was subtle. Nee was good at subtle when he wanted something. I heard your team sent another query on Harbour Crown. Ronke's fingers stopped on the keyboard. Your project team sent an incomplete revision. Is it serious? It is unresolved. Same thing? No silence. Then he tried another route. Baby, everybody is under pressure on this one. The financing presentation is close. Surely you can phrase your comments in a way that does not frighten everybody. Ronke looked through the glass wall of the conference room. Mrs. Daniels was at her desk speaking to another engineer. Phrase what? Ronke asked. The report. It says what needs clarification. I know. I am only saying there are ways to say things. There are also things I cannot sign. Niyi exhaled softly. That is not what I asked. It is what the answer comes down to. Another pause. Ronke could almost see him. Leaning back in his office chair, one ankle over the opposite knee, deciding whether to push, he pushed. You know I would never ask you to do anything improper. Good. So help me. I am helping the project by giving you the review now instead of pretending the problem will disappear. You know what I mean. I do. That answer changed something. Tiny, almost invisible. Niyi's voice cooled by 1 degree. Fine. We will talk later. Okay, I love you. I love you too. He ended the call. Ronke looked at her phone for a few seconds, then turned it face down. Mrs. Daniels appeared at the door. You are frowning at technology again. My fiancé. Worse technology. Ronke laughed. Mrs. Daniels did not. Was that about this project? Ronke hesitated. Yes. Then document the work conversation through work channels. He only asked a question. Good. Then the record will show that he only asked a question. Ronke understood the point. She opened the project file and added a short factual note. Client-side executive contacted her regarding wording of review concerns. No change made to technical position. It felt excessive. 2 months later, she would be grateful for every word. But that morning, she only felt slightly foolish. At lunchtime, Niyi sent flowers. Not apology flowers. He had not admitted there was anything to apologize for. Just flowers. A large arrangement that blocked half the reception desk. The card said, For the stubborn woman I am still marrying. Ronke read it twice. She smiled despite herself. Then she put the card in her handbag instead of on her desk. That weekend, she moved temporarily into the Coker family residence in Ikoyi. Not because she planned to live there after marriage. She and Niyi had already rented a separate apartment that was being renovated. But the engagement dinner was approaching. Both families had relatives coming in and out of Lagos. And Bode Coker had insisted there was no sense in Ronke spending hours in traffic every evening when the house had more empty rooms than some hotels. The Coker residence did not look like a home that needed to prove anything. That was what made it impressive. No gold lions at the gate. No ridiculous fountain. No walls covered in imported marble, simply because marble was expensive. It was old wealth trying not to shout. Wide rooms, high ceilings, mature trees. Staff who knew exactly how quietly to move when guests were present. Ujunwa Nwosu had worked there for almost 7 years. She was 38. Broad-shouldered, careful with her hands, and faster than anyone in that house at noticing what was about to go wrong. A glass too close to the edge of a table, a guest looking for the washroom but too proud to ask. Bode Coker reaching for the sugar bowl after his doctor had already told him to reduce it. Niyi coming home in a mood that made everybody suddenly remember work elsewhere in the house. Ujunwa noticed. She rarely announced that she had noticed. That was part of how she had kept the job. On Ronke's first evening there, Ujunwa showed her the upstairs guest suite. Madam, the wardrobe on this side is empty. I put extra hangers there. Thank you. And please, Ronke is fine when it is only us. Ujunwa gave her a small smile that said she had heard this kind of request before. Okay, Madam Ronke. Ronke laughed. You negotiated. I am working. That is true. Ujunwa put a folded towel on the bed. Dinner is 7:30. Chief likes everybody down before 8 when he is eating at home. Chief? Mr. Coker. Does he know you call him Chief? Everybody calls him Chief when he is not there. Ronke looked at her. For 1 second, Ujunwa's face remained perfectly serious. Then the corner of her mouth moved. Ronk laughed again. That was how they began. Not with rescue, not with confession, with a joke too small to matter. The next morning, Ronka came downstairs early and found Ujunwa eating bread beside the service corridor with a cup of tea balanced on a plastic stool. "Good morning." Ujunwa stood immediately. "Good morning, madam. Please sit. I am just looking for coffee. I will make it." "You are eating. I can make it." Ronke opened a cupboard. Ujunwa watched her for 3 seconds. "Madam, not that one." Ronke stopped. "What is inside?" "Cleaning things." Ronke shut it. "Then perhaps I should allow the professional." Ujunwa smiled and rose. The coffee machine was on the other side of the kitchen. While it heated, Ronke noticed a printed schedule pinned near the service entrance. Names, days, shifts. Some squares had been crossed out and rewritten in pen. "Your day off changed?" Ronke asked. Ujunwa glanced at the sheet. "Again, how many times?" "Madam, it is not a problem." Ronke heard the sentence for what it was. A door closing politely. She did not force it open. "Okay." Ujunwa placed the mug in front of her. "Sugar. No good. Chief will finish all of it himself." This time, both women laughed. Later that afternoon, Ronke was in the upstairs sitting room answering emails when she heard Nii in the corridor. "Ujunwa." "Yes, sir. Why has the driver not collected my shirts?" "He said he was sent to the airport, sir." "By who?" Mrs. Coker told him. "My mother is not here, so who is managing this house today?" Ujunwa lowered her voice. Ronka could not catch the answer. Nii's came back clearly. "I do not want explanations. I want solutions." Then footsteps. A door closed. 10 minutes later, Ujunwa entered with fresh sheets for the guest room. Ronka looked up. "You okay?" "Yes, madam." The answer came too quickly. Ronk let it go. She had known Nii for 3 years. He could be sharp under pressure, impatient, demanding. He had never hit her. He had never called her names in private. He did not check her phone or tell her which friends she could see. Those were the obvious things people warned women about. Nii was not obvious. He believed in freedom when freedom did not inconvenience him. That distinction had not yet become clear to Ronke. By the end of that week, it started to. On Friday night, they sat on the balcony after dinner while the city hummed beyond the compound walls. Nii poured sparkling water into 2 glasses. "How was work?" he asked. "Busy. Harbor Crown." Among other things, he gave her 1 glass. "My team says your firm is holding the revision. My firm says your team has not answered all the queries. My team says the outstanding items are minor. Then they should be easy to answer." He looked at her. Ronka drank her water. "You enjoy this." "What?" "Being difficult." She lowered the glass. "That is an odd thing to say. You know what I mean?" "No." "I know what you are implying." Nii rubbed his thumb along the edge of his glass. "I am trying to deliver a difficult project. You are my fiancée. I should not have to fight through you as well." "Through me?" "You know what I mean. You keep saying that when you do not want to say the actual thing." His jaw tightened. "Fine. The actual thing is this. We are building a life together. I need to know that when things are complicated, you are on my side." Ronke stared at him. "I am on your side. Then act like it." "No." The word landed harder than she intended. Nii blinked. Ronke continued more quietly. "You do not get to define being on your side as agreeing with you at work. It is not about agreeing. It is exactly about agreeing. You are twisting it. And you are asking me to prove love by softening professional judgment." "I said nothing about professional judgment. You called me because of a report." Nii stood. For a moment, Ronke thought he would walk away. Instead, he put both hands on the balcony rail and looked into the garden. "When we marry," he said, "this constant line you draw between your life and mine cannot continue. Ronke watched his back. What line? This. Your work, my work. Your decisions, my family. Everything has boundaries with you. Yes. He turned. You think that is normal? I think it is healthy. He laughed once without humor. Marriage is not a consultancy contract, Ronke. No, which is why I would like to enter it without hidden clauses. For the first time that evening, he looked genuinely hurt. That softened her. It always did. She stood and went to him. Ni. He did not move. She touched his arm. I am not fighting you. It feels like it. I am protecting something I worked very hard to become. And what do you think I am protecting? She had no answer ready. He looked at her then, not angry, tired, almost frightened. My father thinks I am not ready, he said. There it was. The thing underneath the thing. Ronke knew Boded Koka had been slow to hand Nii more authority. Nii was 34, and already an executive director, but in that family, titles were easier to give than trust. Did he say that? She asked. He does not need to. Nii. I know how he looks at me when something slips. Harbor Crown has to land properly. This is not just another project. Ronke squeezed his arm. I understand. Do you? Yes. He covered her hand with his. For a minute the argument seemed finished. Then he said, So help me. Ronke pulled her hand away. Not dramatically, just enough. I can help you without lying for you. Nii's face closed. That was the first night they slept in separate rooms while living under the same roof. The following Monday, Ujunwa's pay was short, not by enough to create a scene in a wealthy house, enough to matter to her. She stood in the service pantry with a folded payslip in one hand and her phone in the other, calculating twice because she did not trust the first answer. The figure was still wrong. The house administrator had deducted 2 days for absence. Ujunwa had not been absent. Her scheduled off days had been moved twice because guests were staying over, and the second move had left her with 2 days when she had not been called in. She went downstairs to ask about it. The administrator was not there. Nii was. He had come into the back office looking for a courier envelope. Ujunwa hesitated at the door. Sir, what? My pay. There is a deduction. He did not look up from the cabinet he was opening. Talk to the administrator. She is not here. Then talk to her when she comes. Yes, sir. She should have left. Instead, she held the payslip a little tighter. Sir, they marked 2 days as absence. Those days were changed from my off day. Nii found the envelope and straightened. Ujunwa, are you asking me to audit household payroll now? No, sir. Good. I am only saying I worked the replacement days. Then show them. The schedule was changed by pen. Nii glanced at the paper in her hand. Do you people not keep records? The question came from him as if the failure belonged entirely to her. Ujunwa swallowed. I do not have anything signed, sir. That is your problem. He walked past her. At the doorway he stopped. And please do not bring domestic matters to me when I am leaving for work. Ujunwa stood there after he had gone. The envelope cabinet remained open. She closed it. Then she folded her payslip again, smaller this time, and put it in her pocket. Ronke found her 20 minutes later in the laundry room, ironing napkins for a dinner that was not happening until the weekend. You have been on that same napkin for a long time, Ronke said. Ujunwa looked down. The iron had not moved. She lifted it quickly. I am fine. Ronke leaned against the doorframe. Okay. Ujunwa waited for the questions. They did not come. That made it worse somehow. She switched off the iron. They deducted 2 days. Ronke said nothing. The schedule changed. I worked the days they asked me to work, but the other days became absence. Did you raise it? Yes, with the administrator. She is not around. And Nii? Ujunwa gave a small shrug. That was answer enough. Ronke held out her hand. Can I see the payslip? Ujunwa almost gave it to her, then stopped. No, madam. It is okay. Ronke lowered her hand immediately. Fine, keep it. Ujunwa looked up. Keep it? And the schedule. If they change something, take a picture before and after. Keep messages. Keep dates. If somebody tells you your off day moved, ask them to send it by text if possible. Ujunwa frowned. Will that make them pay? Maybe. Maybe not. But it means you will not be standing there with only your memory if somebody says something different later. Ujunwa stared at the folded paper in her hand. Ronke added, and write down what you actually worked. Nothing fancy. Just enough that you can follow it. Ujunwa nodded slowly. Okay. Ronke turned to leave. Madam Ronke. She looked back. Thank you. Ronke smiled. For telling you to keep your own papers? Yes. That one should not require thanks. Ujunwa did not answer. Some things should not require thanks. In some houses, they still did. That night, Ujunwa took a photograph of the duty roster before going to bed. Then she opened the cheap notebook she used for her evening hospitality course and wrote the week's shifts on the last page. Monday, 7 in the morning to 9 at night. Tuesday, 7 to 6. Wednesday, moved off day. Thursday worked because Chief had guests. Friday off. She wrote carefully. The habit stayed. It would later matter for more than money. Ronke's own record-keeping became more important the same week. At work, the Harbour Crown queries did not disappear. The project team sent another revised package. Some responses were complete, others were not. Ronke reviewed what she had been assigned, returned comments, and went to lunch. When she came back, Mrs. Daniels was waiting beside her desk. Come with me. Ronke followed her into the meeting room. Mrs. Daniels shut the door. Did you ask to be removed from Harbour Crown? No. Did you tell anyone at Coca Meridian that another engineer should review your comments? Ronke sat very still. No. Mrs. Daniels slid a printed email across the table. It had been sent from a client-side project manager to Mrs. Daniels that morning. The wording was polite. Would it be possible, given Ronke Adeyemi's personal relationship with Executive Director Niyi Coca, to have another engineer independently revisit the outstanding comments in order to avoid perceived conflict? Ronke read the sentence twice, then a third time. Where did this come from? The project manager says the concern was raised internally on their side. By who? He did not say. Ronke knew, or thought she knew. That distinction mattered, and Mrs. Daniels saw it on her face. Do not guess in writing, Mrs. Daniels said. I was not going to. Good. Ronke pushed the paper back. Are you removing me? Mrs. Daniels did not answer immediately. We should have identified the conflict issue earlier. There is no conflict in the technical review if I am following the same process as everyone else. I agree, but perception matters to clients. And now the client is creating the perception. Mrs. Daniels lifted one hand. Careful. Ronke pressed her lips together. That was the second thing she respected about Mrs. Daniels. The woman did not confuse sympathy with permission to be sloppy. Mrs. Daniels continued. I am not removing you from the technical work today, but I am assigning a second reviewer to the outstanding items. That protects the firm. It also protects you. Ronke hated that the decision made sense. Fine. And Ronke, yes? Any client-side communication about this project stays on official channels from now on. No calls, no private messages. If Niyi wants to discuss the project, refer him to me. Ronke looked at the glass wall. Understood. That evening, Niyi met her at a restaurant in Victoria Island. He had already ordered for both of them. Ronke noticed because he had chosen grilled fish for her, which she liked, and because she had not told him she wanted fish. A small thing. Usually caring. That night, it annoyed her. He kissed her cheek when she sat down. You look tired. Work. Let me guess. Please do. Niyi looked at her more carefully. What happened? Ronke placed her handbag beside her chair. Someone at Coca Meridian asked my firm to reconsider whether I should be reviewing Harbour Crown because of my relationship with you. Nii reached for his water. Reasonable question. Ronke's stomach tightened. You knew. I knew it was being discussed. Did you raise it? I asked whether it made sense to have somebody with no personal connection review the comments. You did. Ronk, listen. No, you listen. The waiter approached with bread. Ronk stopped speaking. Nii smiled at the waiter, thanked him, waited until he left. Then his smile vanished. You are making this bigger than it is. You tried to go around me. I tried to remove a conflict. The conflict only became a problem after I refused to soften my review. That is unfair. Is it? Yes. He leaned forward. You think I am trying to sabotage you because you annoyed me? I think you wanted a different answer and tried to find another route to it. That route is normal project management. Then why did you not tell me? He opened his mouth, closed it. Ronke watched him. There were moments in relationships when one person could save a great deal by telling one ugly truth. Nii had one of those moments. He could have said, because I knew you would object. He could have said, because I panicked. He could even have said, because my father is watching this project and I wanted control. Instead, he reached for dignity, his own. I do not need your permission to manage my company. Ronke sat back. There it was. You are right, she said. The calm in her voice bothered him more than shouting would have. And you do not need mine to manage yours. No, but you will not use our engagement as a lever over my work. I did not. You did, Ronk. You did. He looked around the restaurant. Nobody was watching them. Still, he lowered his voice. Must everything with you become a principle? Only things that are principles. He laughed bitterly. You see why people find you difficult? Ronk felt that one. Not because it was loud, because it sounded rehearsed. Which people? Nii looked away. That is not the point. Which people, Nii? He picked up the menu though they had already ordered. Forget it. Nubba. Ronka, you said people find me difficult. Which people? He put the menu down. My mother thinks you are too career-minded. My aunt says you speak to older people like colleagues. Some people in the company think you enjoy proving you are not impressed by the family. Ronke was quiet. A plate clinked somewhere behind her. Nii softened his voice. I am telling you because I love you. No, you are telling me because you want me to become easier for you. That is not fair. Stop using fair when you mean comfortable. The food arrived. Neither of them touched it for several minutes. Finally, Nii said, After we marry, you cannot keep behaving like you are separate from me. Ronke looked at the fish he had ordered without asking. I am separate from you. He stared at her. I am also with you, she added. Those are not the same thing. He shook his head. You make marriage sound like a joint venture with exit clauses, and you make it sound like acquisition. That ended dinner. They drove back separately. At the house, Ronka found Ujunwa in the upstairs corridor replacing flowers in a vase. Ujunwa glanced at her face and wisely did not ask how dinner went. Madam, your aunt called the house line. She said your phone was not going through. Thank you. Ronka took 2 steps toward her room, then stopped. Ujunwa, yes, madam. Do you think I am difficult? Ujunwa's eyes widened. Ronke almost laughed. Forget I asked. No, madam. No. You do not think I am difficult? No. I will forget you asked. Ronke laughed despite everything. Ujunwa allowed herself a smile. Then Ronke went into her room and closed the door. She called her aunt back. She did not tell her about dinner. Not yet. The next 2 weeks moved like that. Nothing dramatic enough to end an engagement. Everything sharp enough to damage one. Nii apologized for involving the project team without telling Ronke. But his apology contained a defense. I should have told you first. But the concern itself was legitimate. Ronke accepted the first half and rejected the second. They went to a family lunch and behaved normally. He held her chair. She passed him stew. His father discussed oil prices with an uncle and never noticed the distance between their hands on the table. Then Nii took Ronke to see the apartment they planned to move into after the wedding. The renovation was nearly finished. New cabinets, fresh paint, empty rooms carrying the smell of sawdust and possibility. For 20 minutes, Ronke remembered why she had said yes to him. They stood in the future bedroom, arguing over where a reading chair should go. You do not read in chairs, Nii said. I do. You fall asleep in chairs. That is a kind of reading. He smiled. She smiled back. Then they reached the smaller room near the front. Ronke looked around. This can be my study. Nii leaned in the doorway. Your study? Yes. I thought we said guest room. You have 2 other guest rooms. We may need this one. For who? People. Which people? Ronk, must we schedule imaginary guests? She ran her hand over the windowsill. I work from home sometimes. This room has good light. You will not need to work from home once you join the foundation. She turned. I am not joining the foundation. Nii frowned. We discussed it. You discussed it. I suggested it. And I said I like my job. You said you would think about it. I thought about it. He pushed himself away from the doorway. Why are you determined to keep running around construction sites after we marry? Ronke stared at him. Running around? You know what I mean. No, explain it. He sighed. I mean, you do not have to struggle anymore. I am not struggling. You spend hours in traffic. You come home exhausted. You deal with contractors, site people, deadlines. For what? For my profession. You can use your skills at the foundation. Doing what? We can create something. Housing initiatives, community projects. You would have a team. Would I report to you? He laughed as if the question were ridiculous. That is what you heard. Would I? The foundation reports through the family office which you oversee. So, no. Nii's face changed. Not much. Enough. This pride will tire you one day. Ronke looked around the room she had imagined as her study. A rectangle of afternoon sun lay across the floor. For the first time, she could picture herself living in the apartment and becoming smaller inside it. The picture frightened her. She walked past him. Where are you going? Home. This is home. No. She stopped at the end of the corridor and looked back. This is an apartment we are renovating. Home is something else. Nii did not follow her. At the bottom of the stairs, Ronke opened her phone and ordered a ride. She could have called the Coca driver. She did not. That evening, Bode Coca asked Nii why Ronke had left the apartment alone. Nii said they had argued about furniture. Bode looked at him over his reading glasses. Furniture? Yes. Then you are either lying or too foolish to understand your own argument. Nii's mouth tightened. His father returned to the document in his hand. Which one? Nii asked. Which one what? Lying or foolish? Bode did not look up. You tell me. That sentence followed Nii all the way upstairs. By morning, his anger had found somewhere easier to go. The Harbour Crown team. The unresolved review. Ronke. The next revision meeting was held at Coca Meridian's office in Lekki. Ronke did not attend alone. Mrs. Daniels sat beside her, and another engineer from the consultancy joined by video call. Across the table were the project manager, 2 design consultants, and Nii. That mattered. Nii could not turn the room into their relationship without everybody noticing. So he did not. He was controlled, professional, almost charming. For 40 minutes, the meeting was exactly what it should have been. Clarification, responses, questions. 1 item was closed. 2 remained open. Ronke spoke only when necessary. Then the project manager reached the final point. The client would like the review note issued this week. Mrs. Daniels glanced at Ronke. Ronke looked at the revised response. If the outstanding supporting information comes in and the second reviewer agrees, that is possible. Niyi folded his hands. And if it does not, then the note will say it remains outstanding. His eyes stayed on her. Even if the issue is considered minor by the design team, the design team can record that view. I am asking for yours. My view is already in the comments. The room became quiet in the particular way. Rooms become quiet when everybody realizes a conversation has another conversation inside it. Mrs. Daniels broke the silence. We will issue our position based on the completed review. The project manager nodded quickly. Fine. Let us move on. There was nowhere to move. That had been the last item. Chairs scraped back. Laptops closed. People gathered papers with unnecessary concentration. Ronke packed slowly. Niyi waited until the others were near the door. Ronk! Mrs. Daniels stopped. Niyi looked at her. May I have 1 minute with my fiancée? Mrs. Daniels's face gave him nothing. Ronke answered first. Not about the project. Niyi's nostrils flared. Fine. Mrs. Daniels left, but not far. Ronke could see her through the glass outside. Niyi lowered his voice. Are you trying to embarrass me? Ronke almost laughed. In a technical meeting? You know what I mean. There it is again. What? That sentence. He looked confused. You keep saying you know what I mean, because what you actually mean sounds bad when you say it plainly. Niyi stared at her. Okay. Plainly? My father is watching this project. The board is watching it. We have already lost time, and my own fiancée sits across from me in meetings, behaving like she enjoys making my job harder. I do not enjoy this. It does not look that way. What would make it look different? If I signed. If you used judgment. I am. You are hiding behind procedure. Ronke picked up her folder. No, Niyi. Procedure is the one thing keeping this conversation from becoming what you want it to become. And what is that? A test of whether I love you enough to stop being good at my job. His face hardened. You think very highly of yourself. I think highly enough not to put my name on work I cannot defend. She walked out. Mrs. Daniels did not ask what had been said. In the car park, she only held out her hand. Your notes from the meeting. Ronke gave her the folder. Send me the clean version before close of business. Ronke nodded. Then Mrs. Daniels said, and do not delete private messages from him if they relate to work. Ronke looked at her. You think this is going somewhere? I think people become careless when personal and professional pressure mix. I prefer records to memory. Ronke thought of Ujunwa's payslip folded in a pocket. The same lesson. Different floor of the same city. That night, Niyi did not come home until after 11. Ronke was still awake in the guest room. Her phone buzzed. A message from him. I am downstairs. Come and talk to me. She read it. Did not move. Another message, please. That one got her up. He was in the dark sitting room with only a lamp on beside the sofa. His tie was loose. His jacket lay over a chair. For once, he did not look like a coca executive or the son of a billionaire. He looked like a man who had not slept properly in days. Ronke sat opposite him. Niyi rubbed his face. I am sorry, she waited. For today. Which part? He gave a tired laugh. You do not make apology easy. It should not need engineering. That made him smile properly. For a second, there they were again. The old version of them. He leaned forward. I should not have said you were embarrassing me. Okay. I am under pressure. I know. My father asked me this morning whether I can carry Harbour Crown without him stepping in, and I said yes. Ronke looked at him. Niyi's hands were clasped between his knees. He still treats me like I am 24, he said. Every mistake becomes evidence that I am not ready. Every delay becomes a question about whether somebody else should take over. So you cannot afford the delay. No. And you think I am causing it. I think you could help reduce it. Ronk's shoulders dropped. Nee, I know. No, you do not know. Listen to me. He did. If I make a professional decision because I am scared of disappointing you, that does not strengthen us. It contaminates everything. What happens next time? What happens when the decision is bigger? What happens when we disagree about money? About family? About children? Nee looked away. Ronke continued. I need to know that I can say no to you and still be safe with you. He turned back. Safe? Yes. I have never threatened you. You do not have to threaten me with violence for pressure to be pressure. His face changed again. There was offense in it now. Do you hear how you talk about me? I am telling you what I need. You are comparing me to some abusive man. I did not use that word. You did not have to. Ronke stood. Nee stood too. See? He said. Every difficult conversation, you turn it into a courtroom. And every boundary, you turn it into rejection. They faced each other across the coffee table. Neither moved. Then Nee said something quieter. Maybe you do not want this marriage as much as I do. Ronke felt the sentence in her chest. He saw that it landed. He regretted it, not enough to take it back. She picked up her phone. I am going upstairs. Ronk. Good night. She left him there. The next morning, Ujunwa found him asleep on the sofa. She covered him with a light throw and went to the kitchen. That was her job. She did not know what had been said. She did not know about Harbour Crown. She knew only that Ronke came downstairs with swollen eyes and asked for coffee without breakfast. Ujunwa put 2 pieces of toast beside the cup anyway. Ronke ate one. Neither woman mentioned it. 3 days before the engagement dinner, the technical review reached the point Nee had been waiting for. The project team had answered enough of the earlier queries to close most of them. One remained. Not a catastrophe. Not a building about to collapse. A design change that required additional confirmation before Ronke and the second reviewer were comfortable closing it. That distinction mattered. Nee did not hear it. He heard only delay. At 4 that afternoon, Ronke received a private message from him. Can you call me? She replied. If it is about Harbour Crown, please email Mrs. Daniels or call the office. His answer came immediately. I am talking to my fiancée. Ronke stared at the screen. Then another message. I need you beside me on this, 1 signature. We sort the rest after. Ronke's fingers went cold. She took a screenshot, then hated herself for taking it. It felt like betrayal. She had never imagined love would make evidence out of ordinary messages. She typed slowly. I cannot sign something I cannot defend. Please do not ask me again privately. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally. Understood. Nothing else. At the Coca house, Nee read that message while standing beside the dining room, where decorators were testing lighting for the engagement dinner. Ujunwa was carrying folded table linen past the doorway. Nee called her. Ujunwa! Yes, sir! He looked at the orange fabric draped over one of the chairs, part of the color plan Ronke had chosen for the evening. Madam Ronke's things are still in the guest suite? Yes, sir. All of them. I do not know, sir. He tapped his phone against his palm. If I call you during the dinner tomorrow, I want you to go upstairs. Ujunwa waited. Bring her suitcase down. Ujunwa frowned. Sir? The large brown one in the wardrobe. Put whatever is still here inside and bring it downstairs. She stared at him. He stared back. When you call me? Yes. In front of the guests? Nee's eyes narrowed slightly. I did not ask you to manage the guest list. No, sir. Then do what I asked. Ujunwa's hands tightened around the linen. What if Madame Ronke is still using the things? Then she can collect them from the gate. Ujunwa said nothing. Niyi stepped closer. You are not paid to understand my decisions. You are paid to do your work. Yes, sir. He walked away. Ujunwa remained beside the dining room. The linen was warm against her arms from the press. One napkin slipped to the floor. She bent to pick it up. Her fingers shook. That frightened her more than Niyi's voice had. She had received bad instructions before. Work late. Cancel your off day. Serve people who would not look at you while asking for water. Stand at the door until guests leave. Smile. Do not answer back. But this was different. This was not housekeeping. This was theater. And he wanted her in the cast. That evening, Ujunwa sat on the edge of her narrow staff room bed with her course notebook open. She was halfway through a part-time certificate in hospitality supervision. Twice a week, when her schedule allowed, she took evening classes. Sometimes she joined online when transport or work made it impossible to attend in person. The course was not glamorous. Stock control, room inspection, guest complaints, staff scheduling, basic workplace documentation. She loved it, not because she wanted to escape domestic work, as if domestic work were shameful. She wanted choices. There was a difference. Inside the back cover of the notebook, she kept a list of places she planned to apply after completing the course. 3 hotels, 2 service department companies, 1 boutique guest house in Ikeja, whose housekeeping supervisor had spoken to her class. She looked at the list, then at the photograph of the duty roster in her phone, then at her bank balance. If she lost the coca job, she would lose the room attached to it. She would lose steady pay. She might lose the reference she had expected after 7 years. Her younger sister in Enugu had already asked whether Ujunwa could help with school fees for one of the children that term. Her course fee for the next module was due soon. Ujunwa put the phone down. God, she said quietly. This one is not funny. No answer came. She lay back on the bed fully dressed. At 11, she sat up again. She opened her notebook to the page where she had started tracking her shifts. Under the last entry, she wrote, Thursday. Mr. Niyi instructed me to pack Madame Ronke's suitcase and bring it downstairs if he calls me during engagement dinner. She stared at the sentence, then added, He said she can collect it from gate. Ujunwa did not know if the note would ever matter. She only knew she wanted to remember exactly what had been said. The next morning, Ronke woke in her own flat in Surulere. She had moved out of the Coca guest suite 2 days earlier, telling the family she needed to be closer to work before the dinner. It was only partly true. She needed space. Her orange dress hung from the wardrobe door. The engagement ring lay on the bedside table. She stared at it while brushing her teeth, then picked it up and put it on. She had not decided to end the engagement. That was the truth. She was angry. She was wary. She was still in love. Human beings often hold those things at the same time, and then wonder why leaving takes longer than outsiders think it should. Her aunt called before 8. Are you ready for your big society performance? Ronke smiled into the phone. It is an engagement dinner, not coronation. With Coca family, same difference. Auntie. I am joking, small. Ronke sat on the edge of the bed. Her aunt heard something in the silence. What happened? Nothing. Ronke. She looked at the ring. We are having some issues. Wedding issues or human being issues. Ronke almost laughed. Human being, those are worse. Ronke told her some of it. Not everything. The pressure around work. The argument about leaving her job. The apartment. Her aunt listened without interrupting. When Ronke finished, the older woman said, Do you want me to tell you to leave him? No, good, because you would not listen because... I said it. Ronke rubbed her forehead. What would you do? I am not marrying him. Auntie, I am serious. Do not borrow my decision. Ask your own question. What question? Her aunt was quiet for a moment. When you say no to this man, what happens next? Ronke stopped moving. Her aunt continued. Not when you agree. Not when you are sweet. Not when everybody is happy. When you say no, what does he do with your no? Ronke looked at the orange dress. She had no neat answer. That is the marriage, her aunt said. The rest is decoration. The call ended 10 minutes later. Ronke sat alone for a long time. Then she got dressed for work. At Coca Meridian, Nii was having a worse morning. Bode called him into his office before 9. His father's office was on the top floor, but Bode kept the blinds open. He liked seeing cranes over the city. He said they reminded him that buildings only looked effortless after somebody had spent months arguing with drawings, concrete, weather, and money. Nii stood in front of the desk. Bode did not invite him to sit. I hear the review is still open. One item. Why? The consultants want additional confirmation, then give it to them. We are doing that. Bode looked up. You sound irritated. I am tired of people protecting themselves instead of moving. That is what consultants are paid to do when your project asks them to put their name on something. Nii's jaw tightened. You are taking their side. There are no sides in a technical review unless somebody turns it into a fight. Nii looked away. Bode watched him. Is Ronke involved in this? Nii said nothing. That silence is an answer. She is part of the reviewing team, and she has become impossible. Bode leaned back. Impossible professionally or impossible because she is your fiancée and still tells you no. Nii's eyes snapped toward him. Bode's expression did not change. You think I do not know you. You think the worst of me every time. No. I think you confuse being challenged with being disrespected. Nii laughed once. Coming from you, Bode accepted the hit. His face barely moved, but he accepted it. Yes, coming from me. The room went quiet. There were old things between father and son that Ronke knew only in pieces. Bode had built Coca Meridian from a small contracting business into a property group. Nii had grown up watching him reward excellence and punish error with the same cold discipline. When Nii joined the company, nobody was allowed to forget he was the founder's son, especially Bode. For years, Nii had worked twice as hard to prove he deserved half the trust. Then, somewhere along the way, proving himself had become needing to win. Bode looked back at the document on his desk. Close the review properly. I will. And leave your engagement out of it. Nii turned toward the door. His father added, Tonight is supposed to be about welcoming Ronke into the family. Do not bring office quarrels to my house. Nii stopped. Yes, sir. He left. By 7 that evening, the Coca residence was full. Cars rolled through the gate one after another. So security men guided drivers toward parking spaces. The garden lights came on beneath the trees. Inside, staff moved between the dining room and terrace, carrying trays, replacing glasses, checking chairs. Ujunwa wore a pale aqua uniform under a white apron. Her hands worked automatically. Her mind did not. Every time Nii's voice rose above the room, she looked toward him. Ronke arrived shortly after 7:30, orange. That was the first thing Ujunwa noticed. The dress was simple in shape, fitted at the waist, bright enough that Ronke seemed to carry her own patch of warm light into the room. Nii wore an emerald green dinner jacket. For photographs, they looked perfect together. That was the trouble with photographs. They did not record what people had already said in private. Nii kissed Ronke's cheek. You came. She pulled back enough to look at him. Of course I came. I was not sure. Then you should have asked. His smile held for the guests around them. Not tonight. Agreed. For the first hour, they kept that agreement. They greeted relatives, posed for photographs, accepted jokes about wedding planning. Bode raised a glass and welcomed Ronke formally. He said she had built her own career before meeting his son, and that the family respected people who could stand on their own feet. Ni's expression changed for half a second at that sentence. Ronke saw it. So did Ujunwa from the edge of the room. Dinner began. Laughter returned. A cousin gave an embarrassing speech about Niyi in secondary school. Somebody's child knocked over a glass and cried harder than the situation required. Ujunwa cleaned it up. For a while, the evening was ordinary enough that she wondered whether Niyi had changed his mind. She hoped so. Then his phone buzzed. He read something. His face emptied. Ronke, seated 3 chairs away, did not notice. Bode did. What? He asked quietly. Nothing. Niyi put the phone down. It buzzed again. He checked it. This time Ronke noticed. What happened? Work. She did not ask more. That restraint somehow angered him. The message was from the Harbour Crown project manager. The independent second reviewer had agreed with Ronke's position. The remaining item could not be closed without the additional confirmation requested. The note would not issue as Niyi wanted that week. Nothing catastrophic. Nothing citational. But Niyi had spent weeks making it both. Dessert arrived. Then speeches. Niyi was last. He took the microphone. At first, he was funny. He thanked both families. He thanked guests who had traveled. He thanked his father for pretending not to interfere with wedding planning while interfering with everything. People laughed. Bode raised his glass. Then Niyi looked at Ronke. You all see this woman? More laughter. Ronke smiled carefully. She is brilliant, he said. Very brilliant. Sometimes I think she remembers it every 5 minutes in case the rest of us forget. A few people laughed again. Ronke did not. Niyi continued. She has taught me many things. Patience, humility, the meaning of technical query. The laughter thinned. Bode lowered his glass. Ronke's shoulders went still. Niyi, she said softly. He heard her. He kept going. And perhaps tonight I should teach her something too. The room changed. No one moved. Ni's smile remained, but it had stopped belonging to celebration. Marriage is partnership, he said. Not one person constantly proving she can stand alone. Not one person embarrassing the family she is about to join because she must always be right. Ronke stood. Give me the microphone. No. Sit down. Several heads turned. Bode said, Niyi. His son lifted one hand. Dad, please. Everybody keeps telling me to handle my relationship privately. I have tried. Ronke stared at him. You have tried? Yes. By speaking about my work in front of your guests? There. That is exactly it. He pointed toward her with the microphone. Everything is your work, your rules, your boundaries, your independence. Ronke's face went hot. Somebody at the far table looked down at a plate. Another guest reached for a phone, then thought better of it. The official videographer near the Tetris did not stop recording. He had been hired to record speeches. No one had yet told him not to. Ni's voice sharpened. You want to marry into this family, but behave as if respecting the family will reduce you. Ronke took one step toward him. You are drunk. I have had 2 glasses of wine, then you have no excuse. A murmur moved through the room. That did it. Ni's face hardened completely. You see, in front of everybody. You brought everybody into it. I am tired of begging my own fiancée to remember where she stands. Ronke went still. Not because she had no answer. Because she suddenly understood the answer to her aunt's question. When you say no to this man, what happens next? This happened next. Niyi turned toward the service corridor. Ujunwa! The maid was standing beside a tray of glasses. Her mouth went dry. Niyi lifted the microphone. Bring her bags downstairs now. The music had already stopped. Now even the small sounds died. Ronke looked at him as if she had never seen his face before. Ni smiled. a cruel, satisfied smile. Since she thinks she is too important to respect this family, she can leave this house tonight. Ujunwa did not move. Nii looked at her. Did you hear me? Yes, sir. Then go. Ujunwa walked toward the hallway. Every step felt wrong. She passed the stairs, past the doorway to the service corridor, stopped beside the small console table where staff kept spare napkins and serving cloths. Her hands found the knot at the back of her apron. She stood there for 3 seconds, maybe 4, long enough to think of rent, course fees, her sister. 7 years, a reference. Then she untied the apron, folded it once, not neatly. For once, not neatly. She set it on the table, removed the staff badge clipped to her uniform, and walked back into the dining room empty-handed. People noticed the apron before they noticed her face. White cloth on polished wood, a small thing. Wrong place, wrong time. Ujunwa walked past 2 tables and stopped beside Nii. He looked at her empty hands. Where are the bags? She reached for the microphone. Nii pulled it back instinctively. What are you doing? Ujunwa's voice was low. Please, sir. The room had become so quiet that the request carried anyway. Nii looked around. He seemed to remember the audience only then. Perhaps he thought, refusing a maid the microphone would look worse than letting her say 1 sentence. He handed it over. Ujunwa held it with both hands. She had never spoken into a microphone before. The first breath came back at her through the speakers. She flinched, then looked at Nii. No, sir. The words were almost gentle. The room froze. I will not carry her bags. Nii stared at her. What? Ujunwa removed her badge and placed it beside the microphone stand. And from tonight, I no longer work for you. A woman near the back whispered, Jesus. Nii gave a short laugh. Not because anything was funny, because disbelief needed somewhere to go. Ujunwa, stop this nonsense and go upstairs. She shook her head. No, sir. Do you know who you are speaking to? Ujunwa's fingers tightened around the microphone. Yes. That answer struck harder than if she had insulted him. Nii stepped closer. You want to lose 7 years of work because of something that does not concern you? Ujunwa looked at Ronke. Ronke's hand was hanging beside her dress. The ring on it caught the warm light. Then Ujunwa looked back at Nii. You made it concern me when you told me to carry the bag. A few guests shifted in their seats. Nii's face darkened. You are staff. Yes, sir. You are paid to follow instructions. I am paid to clean, serve, arrange the house, help with guests. I am not paid to shame somebody for you. Her voice trembled on the last word. She heard it. So did everyone else. She did not stop. You told me yesterday that if you called me, I should pack Madame Ronke's things, bring the suitcase here, and she could collect it from the gate. Ronke's head turned sharply. Yesterday? Ujunwa nodded. Nii reached for the microphone. That is enough. Ujunwa stepped back. For the first time, Bodhi stood. Nii, 1 word. His son stopped. Bode's voice was quiet. Did you instruct her yesterday? Nii looked at his father. This is between Ronke and me. That was not my question. Dad, not now. Ronke laughed. It was a small, shocked sound. Everybody looked at her. She touched the ring on her finger. Then she pulled it off. Nii's face changed immediately. Ronke! She walked to the nearest table and placed the ring beside his untouched dessert plate. She did not throw it, did not slap him, did not raise her voice. You wanted everybody to know my place, she said. Nii swallowed. Do not do this. Now they do. She looked at him once. It is not beside you. Then she turned toward the door. Nii moved after her. Bode stepped into his path, not dramatically. Just enough. Let her go. Nii looked at him as if betrayal had multiplied in the room. Dad, not one more word tonight. Ronke kept walking. Ujunwa placed the microphone on the stand. For half a second, she looked at the apron on the console table. 7 years of tying one like it around her waist every morning. Then she left it there. She followed Ronke outside. The night air hit them both at once. Cars filled the driveway. Drivers were sitting in some of them, waiting for guests who were suddenly in no hurry to leave. Ronke walked fast toward the gate. Ujunwa had to hurry to catch up. Madam Ronke. Ronke stopped. The control she had held inside the dining room broke only around the edges. Her mouth shook. She pressed her lips together. Ujunwa stood a few feet away. Neither knew what to say. Finally, Ronke asked, "Did he really tell you yesterday?" "Yes." "To pack my things in front of everyone?" "Yes." Ronke looked back at the house. Through the wide windows, people were moving again. Small figures in expensive clothes. The party was over, even if no one had announced it. Ronke rubbed the bare place on her finger. "I left most of my things at my flat already." Ujunwa almost smiled. "I know." Ronke looked at her. "The suitcase is nearly empty." "I know that too." A laugh escaped Ronke. It cracked halfway through and turned into something else. She covered her face. Ujunwa did not touch her immediately. Then Ronke reached out first. Ujunwa took her hand. They stood that way beside a row of parked cars, while the generator hummed beyond the wall. After a minute, Ronke lowered her hand. "Where will you go?" Ujunwa looked toward the staff wing. The answer was suddenly less simple than it had been 15 minutes earlier. "I have a cousin in Maryland. I can call her. You live here. Yes, your things are inside." "Yes." Ronke's face tightened. "I did not think. Madam, no, I should have. You did not tell me to do anything." Ronke stopped. Ujunwa said it again. "You did not ask me to leave my job. Please do not carry that one." The phrasing was so Ujunwa that Ronke almost argued with it and then did not. "Fine," she said. "But you are not sleeping outside, because Nii cannot control himself." "I did not say I would." "My ride is coming. Come with me. You can call your cousin from my place." Ujunwa hesitated. "I have to collect my things." Ronke looked at the house. "I will come with you." "No, but why?" "Because if you enter there again tonight, somebody will start another fight. Me, I only want my bag." Ronke stared at her. Ujunwa added, "My own bag. That did it." Ronke laughed again. Properly this time. "Fine." Ujunwa went back through the side entrance. Inside, the staff corridor felt stranger than the dining room had. Everybody had heard. Nobody knew how to look at her. The cook opened her mouth, closed it, then said, "Ujunwa," only her name. Ujunwa nodded. "I am packing." The cook came with her. So did one of the younger housekeepers. No speeches. They folded clothes, packed shoes, wrapped Ujunwa's small electric kettle in a towel. The younger housekeeper slipped 2 sachets of detergent into the bag out of habit, then looked embarrassed. Ujunwa left them there. In 7 years, she had collected less than she expected. 2 bags, a plastic file of documents, her hospitality notebooks, a framed photograph of her mother. At the service office, the household administrator had returned. She was pale. "Ujunwa." "Chief said you should wait until morning before making any decision." "I already made it. He said nobody should force you out tonight." "I know. You can sleep here." Ujunwa looked down the corridor toward her room, then shook her head. "If I sleep here, by morning everybody will begin talking sense into me. Maybe sense is good." Sometimes she picked up her bag. "Tonight I need distance." At the gate, Ronke's ride had arrived. They loaded Ujunwa's bags into the boot. Ronke sat in front because Ujunwa refused to let her sit in the back like a passenger in her own trip. Halfway across the bridge, Ujunwa's phone began ringing. House administrator. She ignored it, then bowed. She stared at the name. Ronke noticed. "You can answer." Ujunwa did. "Good evening, sir. Where are you?" "In a car, sir." "I can hear that." "Are you safe?" "Yes, sir." "Good. You will be paid everything due to you. Whatever happened tonight, Nobody will hold your wages. Ujunwa looked out the window. Thank you, sir. And do not make any decisions about your room tonight. We will arrange time for you to collect anything remaining. I have collected my things. Bode was silent. All of them, yes, sir. Another silence. Very well. He sounded older than he had at dinner. Good night, Ujunwa. Good night, sir. She ended the call. Ronke stared ahead. What did he say? That they will pay me. Good. Ujunwa put the phone in her lap. Then it rang again. Niyi. She rejected the call. He called back. She rejected it again. A message appeared. You have made a serious mistake. Ujunwa read it once, then took a screenshot. Ronke noticed and looked at her. Ujunwa shrugged. You said keep records. For the first time that night, Ronke smiled without pain getting there first. Good. At Ronke's flat, they made tea at 1 in the morning. Neither wanted food. Ujunwa called her cousin, who said she could stay as long as needed, but asked her to come the next day because the children were asleep and the flat was crowded. So Ujunwa slept on Ronke's sofa. Ronke lay awake in her bedroom. At 2:16, Niyi sent a message. We need to talk before people turn tonight into something it was not. At 2:20, I was angry, I went too far. I know that. At 2:31, but Ujunwa had no right to interfere in our relationship. At 2:40, please answer me. Ronke read every message. She answered none. At 3, she removed Niyi's contact photograph from her phone because seeing his face every time a message came was making her physically tired. She did not block him. Not yet. At 7 the next morning, a clip from the dinner reached her. It was 28 seconds long. It began with Ronke already standing. Niyi's earlier remarks were missing. The clip caught her saying, You brought everybody into it. Then Niyi, I am tired of begging my own fiancée to remember where she stands. Then Ronke removing the ring. The person who sent it was a former university classmate with one line underneath. Is this you? Ronke watched it twice. The framing made her look furious. Maybe she had been furious. But the clip began too late to explain why. She put the phone down. Ujunwa came from the bathroom wearing yesterday's clothes. What happened? Ronke turned the screen toward her. Ujunwa watched. That is not everything. No. Where is the part before? Not in this clip. Ujunwa frowned. Who sent it? I do not know who first posted it. The clip did not go massively viral across Nigeria. It did not need to. That would have been easier in some ways. Instead, it moved through the exact circles that could hurt Ronke. Family WhatsApp groups, private business chats, people who knew the Cokers, people who knew Ronke's firm, people who enjoyed a scandal more when they recognized the names. By 8:30, Mrs. Daniels called. Do not come to the office yet. Ronke sat down slowly. Why? Because I want to speak to you before you walk into a room full of people, pretending not to have watched that video. Ronke closed her eyes. Okay. Also, the Harbour Crown project manager sent an email this morning asking whether your personal dispute creates a risk to the objectivity of our review. There it was. The story changed in one sentence. Until that moment, Ronke's problem had been a broken engagement. Painful. Public. Humiliating. But private life could eventually become private again. Now Niyi's company had connected that humiliation back to her work. What did you tell them? That we will review the matter internally and that the technical assessment stands unless our review finds a reason it should not. Ronke let out a breath. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. Mrs. Daniels's voice remained calm. You are being temporarily removed from direct client communication on Harbour Crown while we document the conflict and complete a second-level review. Ronke's hand tightened around the phone. You said the technical assessment stands. It does. Then why remove me? Because the firm has to protect the review from the argument that your relationship influenced it. You know that. Ronke did know. That did not make it easier. How long? I do not know. So he creates the conflict, then I lose the work because the conflict exists. I understand how it feels. No. Mrs. Daniels, I do not care how it feels. Is that what is happening? A pause. Yes. Temporarily. Ronke stood and walked to the window. Morning traffic was already thick below. A bus conductor shouted a destination she could not make out through the glass. Mrs. Daniels, yes? I have records. I assumed you did. Messages from Nii. Project-related. Before last night. Do not send anything casually. Bring your work laptop and your phone. We will document what is relevant. Ronke looked toward the sofa. Ujunwa was pretending not to listen. And Mrs. Daniels. Yes. He asked me to sign before the outstanding item was closed. I know you recorded a concern about wording. Did you record that request? I have the message. This time Mrs. Daniels was silent longer. Come in at 10. Use the side meeting room. The call ended. Ronke remained by the window. Ujunwa said, Madam. Ronke turned. I am sorry. For what? For all of it. Ujunwa shook her head. You did not do it. Ronke looked at the orange dress draped over the back of a chair, where she had thrown it the night before. It looked almost indecently bright in daylight. I kept thinking the worst thing he could do was embarrass me. Ujunwa waited. Ronke picked up her work bag. I was wrong. At the consultancy office, Mrs. Daniels did not hug her. Ronke was grateful. She did not want kindness that would make her cry before she could think. They sat with a compliance advisor from the firm and built a timeline. Dates, meetings, emails, private messages only where they related to project pressure. The first call after the review query. Ronke's internal note. The client request to change reviewers. Nii's message asking for one signature. Ronke's response refusing, then the dinner. The advisor looked at her phone. Do you have the full event video? No. Who recorded it? The family hired a videographer. Do you know the company? Ronke did. She had selected them. The advisor wrote it down. Do not contact them personally yet. We will first determine what the firm actually needs for our own review. Ronke nodded. There was no dramatic revelation, no hidden recording in a drawer, just work. Slow, boring, necessary work. By lunchtime, Ronke's head hurt. She checked her phone. Nii had sent another message. Can we meet tonight? She ignored it. Then another. I have spoken to the project team. This does not need to affect your job if we handle it properly. Ronke read the sentence 3 times. This does not need to affect your job. Not. I am sorry it has affected your job. Not. I will tell them our personal dispute has no bearing on your technical work, if we handle it properly. A condition. She showed Mrs. Daniels. Mrs. Daniels read it. Do you want to respond? Yes. What do you want to say? Ronke thought, then typed. Do not contact me privately about Harbour Crown again. Any project communication should go through the firm. Regarding our engagement, it is over. Please do not represent otherwise. She showed Mrs. Daniels before sending. Mrs. Daniels nodded. Ronke pressed send. The answer came less than a minute later. You are making a permanent decision in anger. Ronke put the phone face down. Block him? Mrs. Daniels asked. Not yet. Why? Because I want the messages preserved, and because if he says something about the project, I want it documented. Mrs. Daniels nodded. That was the moment Ronke stopped trying to persuade Nii to understand her. She changed strategy. No more explaining the relationship. No more proving she was loving enough. No more private debate about professional facts. From then on, if he crossed the line, she would record the crossing. Nii noticed the difference before anybody else did. That evening, he called 6 times. Ronke did not answer. At 7, he came to her flat. Security called upstairs. Madam, one Mr. Nii is here. Ronke stood in the middle of her sitting room. Ujunwa had left for her cousin's place that afternoon. The flat was quiet again. Do not let him up. Should we tell him you are not home? Ronke looked at the door. No. Tell him I am home, and I do not want to see him. The security guard paused. Yes, madam, that mattered too. Not hiding. A boundary did not need a lie to make it valid. Nii stayed downstairs for 11 minutes, then left. The next morning, the shortened dinner clip appeared again in a business gossip account online. The caption did not accuse Ronke of anything specific. It did something more slippery. It asked whether personal bitterness was spilling into a major Lagos property project. No source named. No evidence shown. Just a question. Questions could do damage without accepting responsibility for the answer. Ronke took a screenshot. Then she went to work. The full video from the engagement dinner existed because the videographer had been hired to record the speeches. That was all. No secret camera. No hidden microphone. No miracle. The consultancy's advisor requested the relevant footage through a formal letter, after Ronke gave permission for the personal material to be used only as necessary in the internal conflict review. The videography company did not hand over everything immediately. They contacted the client who had booked them, confirmed what had been recorded, and asked how the footage was to be released. For 3 days, nothing happened. Those 3 days were ugly, not loud. Ugly in ordinary ways. Ronke entered the office kitchen, and conversations changed subject. A contractor she had worked with for 2 years sent a message that began, "I am sure there are 2 sides," which is a sentence people often use just before choosing the side that inconveniences them least. Her mother called from Ibadan after a relative forwarded the short clip. "Why did you remove the ring in front of everybody?" Ronke stood beside the office stairwell and closed her eyes. "Mummy, because he humiliated me in front of everybody." "What did he say?" Ronke told her. There was silence. Then her mother said, "He told the maid to bring your bags?" "Yes, before people?" "Yes, and the maid refused?" "Yes," another silence. "Who is this maid?" Ronke looked through the stairwell window at the city. A woman who had more sense than the rest of us that night. Her mother did not laugh. "Are you coming home this weekend?" "I do not know. Come if you want. Do not come if you do not want, but eat." Ronke smiled despite herself. "Okay, and do not marry, because invitations have been printed." Ronke's throat tightened. "They have not been printed." "Good, save paper." That was all. No sermon. Just a mother finding the one practical thing she could still control. At her cousin's flat in Maryland, Ujunwa was discovering that courage did not pay transport fare. Her cousin lived with her husband and 2 children in a 2-bedroom flat. Ujunwa slept on a mattress in the sitting room and folded it against the wall every morning before the children woke properly. On Monday, she started calling places from the list in her notebook. One hotel told her to send a CV. Another asked whether she had formal supervisory experience. She said no. They said they would keep her details. Everybody knew what that meant. The boutique guest house in Ikeja asked for a reference from her last employer. Ujunwa stared at the phone after the call ended, then laughed once. Reference. Her cousin looked up from packing a child's lunchbox. "What?" "They want Coca House to tell them whether I am a good worker. Call chief. I resigned in front of his guests." "You resigned from his son, not from cleaning plates." Ujunwa looked at her cousin. Her cousin shrugged. "Call him." Ujunwa did not that day. Instead, she attended her evening class. The topic was staff scheduling. The lecturer spoke about predictable rotas, adequate notice for changes, and the damage created when supervisors treated workers' time as if it belonged entirely to the employer. Ujunwa sat very still. When the lecturer asked for examples, she did not give hers. She wrote them down. At the bottom of the page, she added one sentence. If you supervise people, do not make them beg for information about their own time. It was the first time she had turned what happened at the Coca house into something other than anger. Across town, Bode Coca was doing the same thing with shame. The morning after the dinner, he had called Nii into his study. The ring Ronka returned was on the desk between them. Bode had put it there deliberately. Nii did not sit. You planned the suitcase, Bode said. Nii stared at the ring. I was angry. That was not my question. Yes. You instructed Ujunwa the day before. Yes. So, do not tell me it happened because you lost your temper during a speech. Nii looked at his father. You have already decided. I am the villain. Bode's mouth tightened. This is not a film. I am not deciding roles. You always do this. Do what? Judge me as if every mistake proves I should never have been given responsibility. Bode leaned back. You humiliated the woman you planned to marry and used a household employee to stage it. I did not use her. You gave her instructions because you believed her salary would make her obey. Nii's jaw worked. You think Ronke did nothing? You think she has not spent weeks undermining me? At work? Yes. Then answer her work with work. You do not understand. I understand more than you want me to. Nii laughed bitterly. Of course, Saint Bode Coca. Famous for kindness to people who said no to him, the sentence landed. Bode looked toward the window. Years ago, he had been harsher than Nii knew how to be. Not theatrical, not foolish, just efficient with people's fear. Managers had learned to bring him good news first. Staff had learned not to contradict him in meetings. Nii had watched all of it. Children learn from what parents reward, not from what they later claim they meant. Bode looked back at his son. No, he said. I was not kind. Nii blinked. Bode continued. And maybe that is part of why you think power is something you prove by making somebody smaller. For once, Nii had no answer. Bode picked up the ring and closed his fist around it. But do not use my failures as permission for yours. Nii looked away. The Harbour Crown issue is being reviewed independently, Bode said. You will not contact Ronka's firm about her personally. You will not contact the reviewer. You will not ask anyone to make this disappear. You are removing me from my own project? I am preventing you from making it worse. That is the same thing. No, it feels the same. Bode's face went flat. There is your problem again. Nii left without taking the ring. But he did not follow his father's instruction completely. He did not call Ronka's firm again. He did something he thought was smarter. He spoke privately to 2 business contacts about the conflict around the project and said he was concerned that Ronka's emotions after the breakup might be coloring the review. He did not ask them to post anything. He did not have to. One of them repeated it to somebody else. By the time the rumor reached the business gossip account, it had no owner. That was how reputation moved in close circles. Nobody pushed hard enough to leave fingerprints. But rumors also had a weakness. They could not rewrite dates. Ronke's technical comments existed before the engagement dinner. So did Nii's private request for one signature. So did the request from his project team to replace her as reviewer. The consultancy's second reviewer had reached the same conclusion independently. Those facts did not prove Nii had caused the online rumor. They did something more useful. They showed that Ronke's professional position had not been invented after the relationship collapsed. When the full dinner video finally arrived, Mrs. Daniels asked Ronke to watch only the relevant section with her. Ronke almost refused, then sat down. The video began with Bode's welcome speech. Ronke saw herself smiling in orange. She looked happy. That hurt more than seeing the humiliation. They skipped forward. Nee took the microphone. There it was, the jokes, the change in tone. His remarks about her work, Ronke asking for the microphone, Nee telling her to sit down, the line about remembering where she stood, then Ujunwa, the full sequence. No ambiguity about who made the moment public. Mrs. Daniels paused the video after Ronke placed the ring on the table. You do not need to watch the rest. Ronke looked at the frozen image. Nee's face was turned toward her. Her own hand was still beside the ring. Yes, I do. Why? Because I want to know what happened after I walked out. Mrs. Daniels looked at her, then pressed play. On screen, Bode blocked Nee from following. Guests began moving. A relative touched Bode's arm. The cook appeared briefly near the corridor. Then Nee said, loudly enough for the camera to catch it, She has been trying to damage my project for weeks. Ronke's body went cold. Mrs. Daniels paused the video again. Neither woman spoke. That sentence mattered, not because it proved every later action. It did not prove who started the online rumor. It did not prove intent behind every client communication. But it showed that while still standing in the room where he had publicly ended their engagement, Niyi was already connecting Ronke's personal rejection to her professional work. Mrs. Daniels wrote down the time marker. Now we have enough to separate the issues properly, she said. Ronke looked at her. Separate them? Yes. Your firm will review whether your technical work was sound. The company can review whether its executive tried to influence that work or retaliate around it. The dinner footage supports context. It does not decide the engineering. Ronke let out a breath she had been holding for days. Good. Mrs. Daniels nodded. Good. It was not victory. It was a clean table. Sometimes that was the first thing truth needed. Ujunwa's statement came later. Ronke did not ask her to make it. The Coca household administrator did. Bode had ordered an internal review of what happened with staff that night, including why a domestic worker had been instructed to participate in a family dispute. When Ujunwa was contacted, she asked whether giving a statement would affect her final pay. The administrator said no. Ujunwa asked for that in writing. The administrator sent an email. Only then did Ujunwa agree. She wrote what she knew. Niyi instructed her the day before the dinner to pack Ronke's suitcase if called. He said Ronke could collect it from the gate. He said Ujunwa was paid to do her work, not understand his decisions. During the dinner, he called her and ordered her to bring the bags. She refused and resigned. That was all. No claim about Harbour Crown. No claim about Niyi's motive. No claim about what Ronke knew. When the administrator asked whether Ujunwa believed Niyi planned to humiliate Ronke, Ujunwa crossed out the question and wrote beside it, I can only say what he told me to do. The sentence reached Bode. He read it twice, then called the household administrator. Pay everything outstanding. We are reconciling her leave and 2 disputed days. Reconcile them properly. Do not round anything because I said pay. Yes, sir. And prepare written terms for every household employee. The administrator paused. Sir, written duties, pay dates, off days, how schedule changes are recorded, who they raise disputes with if it is not you. Chief, we have always managed. I know how we have always managed. Bode looked at Ujunwa's statement again. A week after the dinner, Bode asked Ronke to meet him. She considered refusing, then agreed to 30 minutes in a neutral place, a quiet meeting room at her consultancy office. Not his house, not his company. Mrs. Daniels knew about the meeting and remained nearby. Bode arrived alone in a cobalt blue suit and carried no gifts. Ronke appreciated that much. He sat across from her. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Bode said, I am sorry for what happened in my house. Ronke nodded once. I did not ask you here for an apology, she said. I know. Why did you ask? Bode placed both hands on the table. I want this matter contained before it damages more people. Ronke almost smiled. There it is? What? The family language. Bode's brows drew together. Explain. Contained, managed, kept quiet. Protected. I did not say protected. You did not need to. Bode studied her. You think I came to buy your silence. I think you came because silence is cheaper than accountability. His eyes hardened, but his voice did not. I am not your son. No, do not punish me for his behavior. Ronke leaned back. I am not punishing anybody. Then what do you want? The question was sincere. That surprised her. Ronke answered slowly. I want the engineering review to continue without interference. I want my firm left alone to assess my work. I want nobody from Coca Meridian suggesting that my professional position was revenge because I ended my engagement. And I want Nee to stop contacting me privately about the project. Bode nodded. All reasonable. I also want something else. His face changed slightly. What? Do not make Ujunwa pay for telling the truth. She resigned. I know. She will be paid. Money due to her is not kindness. Bode was silent. Ronke looked directly at him. If anybody from your house gives her a bad reference because she refused that instruction, then everything you say about what happened will be empty. Bode's jaw shifted. You care a great deal about her. I care that she had the least power in that room and paid the first real price. Bode looked down at his hands, then said, She will receive an accurate reference. Not a generous one. Accurate. He looked up. Accurate. Ronke nodded. Bode sat back. I was hoping we could issue some kind of joint statement about the engagement. No, it would reduce speculation. No, Ronk. You asked what I want. I told you. I am not doing public relationship management with the family that publicly humiliated me. Bode's mouth tightened. Then, unexpectedly, he gave a small nod. Fair. Ronke almost laughed. Your son likes that word too. Bode did not ask what she meant. He stood. At the door he stopped. Ronk. Yes? I should have stopped him sooner that night. You should have stopped other things sooner than that. He absorbed it. Yes. Then he left. The independent technical review took another 2 weeks. That was less dramatic than people wanted, and longer than Niyi could tolerate. He was removed from direct control of the Harbour Crown review while the company examined his conduct around the project. An interim executive handled client decisions. Ni still came to the office, still had a driver, still wore expensive suits, still went home to a mansion when he wanted, but doors he had once opened without knocking now required invitations. That was new. At first he treated it as humiliation, then as conspiracy, then as temporary inconvenience. Only later did he begin to understand it as consequence. The technical findings were precise. Ronke's concern had been reasonable. The outstanding design issue required additional review and correction before closure. The second reviewer agreed. An independent external engineer retained by the company also agreed that the item should not have been treated as closed when Ronke was being pressured to sign. That did not make Ronke infallible. Several of her earlier comments had already been resolved in the ordinary process. One had been more conservative than necessary, and was narrowed after additional information came in. She accepted that, without embarrassment. Professional judgment was not the same thing as always being right. It meant being willing to show your basis, revise when evidence changed, and refuse when evidence had not arrived yet. The company's governance review looked at something different. It examined Niyi's communications about changing reviewers, his private messages to Ronke that crossed personal and project lines, his statement at the dinner, and his attempts to frame the technical dispute as personal hostility. No one needed to prove that he had invented every rumor online. The question was whether his conduct as an executive had compromised confidence in the process. By the morning of the review meeting, the answer was becoming difficult to avoid. Ronke did not attend the company's internal disciplinary discussions. She attended only a joint technical and governance session where her firm presented its work and where she could answer questions about her own decisions. That distinction mattered to her. She was not going there to watch Nii be punished. She was going there because her name was on the work. The meeting room overlooked a grey Lagos morning. Rain had started before dawn and left the road shining below. Bode sat at one end of the table with 2 board members and an external advisor. Nii sat along the side, not at the head. Ronke entered with Mrs. Daniels and the second reviewer. For the first time since the dinner, she and Nii were in the same room. He stood when she entered. She did not. Not because she wanted to disrespect him, because she was already standing. Mrs. Daniels almost smiled. The technical discussion lasted more than an hour. Drawings were reviewed, dates confirmed. The sequence of queries was laid out. Ronke answered what she was asked. When she did not know something, she said so. When another reviewer had made the final call on a later revision, she said that too. Nii spoke only twice during the first hour. Both times he was controlled. Then the external advisor asked him a simple question. When did you first become concerned that Miss Adeyemi's personal relationship with you might affect her professional objectivity? Nii leaned back. Early in the review. How early? Before the final disagreement. The advisor looked at the timeline. Your project team requested a different reviewer after Ms. Adeyemi declined to soften the outstanding note. Before that, there is no recorded conflict concern from your side. Nii's eyes moved toward Ronke. She did not look at him. I had private concerns. Did you document them? No. Did you tell her firm before the technical disagreement? No. Did you tell your own project manager? I do not recall. The advisor nodded. Then let us stay with what is documented. That sentence changed the air in the room. Nii had spent his life in rooms where confidence could carry a weak answer farther than it deserved. Not this one, the advisor continued. After Ms. Adeyemi declined to sign, you sent her a private message asking for one signature and saying the rest could be sorted later. Correct? Nii looked at the printed message. Yes. What did you mean? I meant that the outstanding issue could continue to be resolved without delaying the broader note. Mrs. Daniels spoke for the first time in several minutes. That was not the structure of the sign-off being requested. Nii looked at her. I understood it differently. Ronke finally turned toward him. You understood it well enough to ask me privately instead of through the project channel. Bode looked down. Nii's face tightened. This is exactly the problem. Everything I say to you becomes evidence now. Ronke's voice remained even. No, the things you said about the project became project evidence. Silence. The external advisor let it sit. Then moved to the dinner footage. Only the relevant segment was played. Nii watched himself on screen. The jokes, the microphone, the order to Ujunwa. Ronke placing the ring down. Then his own voice after Ronke left. She has been trying to damage my project for weeks. The video stopped. No one rushed to speak. Bode removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. One board member asked Nii, why did you say that? Because that was how it felt. The external advisor looked at him. Your feeling is not the same as her motive. I know that. Did you know it that night? Nii opened his mouth. Nothing came. He looked toward Ronke again. This time she met his eyes. For the first time since the dinner, he looked less angry than tired. Almost ashamed. It would have been easy for the story to soften there, to make shame equal change. It did not. People can recognize a wound they caused before they are ready to stop defending the hand that caused it. Nii tried once more. I was under enormous pressure. The project was slipping. My father had made it clear. Bode raised his head. No. Nii stopped. His father's voice was quiet. Do not put this on me. You did put pressure on me. Yes. Bode did not flinch. I pushed you. I questioned you. I made it difficult for you to fail in front of me. I will answer for my part. But I did not tell you to pressure Ronk. I did not tell you to use Ujunwa. I did not tell you to turn a technical review into proof of loyalty. Nii stared at him. Bode continued. You wanted authority. This is the part of authority you kept trying to skip. What part? The answer after the decision. Nii looked down at the table. No one spoke for several seconds. Then the meeting returned to work. That was almost crueler than a shouting match. There was no grand public destruction, no applause, no security guards dragging Nii away. The board later confirmed that he would be removed from direct authority over Harbour Crown, and from several related approvals while the conduct review was completed. His planned expansion of responsibilities in the company was suspended. Any return to broader leadership would require a formal remediation plan, oversight and evidence that governance boundaries were being respected. Nii remained wealthy. He remained Bode Koka's son. But the thing he had treated as birthright was no longer automatic. Trust. That one had to be rebuilt. After the joint session ended, Ronka gathered her papers. Mrs. Daniels left first to take a call. Bode remained with the board members. Nii followed Ronke into the corridor. Ronk, she stopped. He looked thinner than he had a month earlier. Not dramatically, just enough that his collar sat differently. I need 5 minutes. No. He swallowed. Please. She looked toward the lift, then at him. 2. Nii nodded. They stood near a window at the end of the corridor. Rain streaked the glass. For a moment he said nothing. Then, you destroyed me. Ronki's face did not change. Nii laughed bitterly. You do not even react. What do you want me to say? That you know what this has cost me. I know. My father does not trust me. The board thinks I am reckless. People I trained are handling my project. Ronke nodded. Yes? And you are fine with that? Ronke looked at him for a long time. No. The answer surprised him. She continued. I am not happy that you became this version of yourself. I am not happy that 3 years ended like this. I am not happy Ujunwa lost her job. I am not happy my work had to be reviewed because you could not accept a no. Nii's eyes dropped. But I did not destroy you. He looked up. Ronka's voice was quiet. I stopped helping you hide from consequences. He flinched. You could have protected me. From what? From this. Know why? Because the protection you wanted required me to become less credible, less free, and eventually less myself. Nii's mouth tightened. I loved you. I know. He stared at her. That answer hurt more than denial would have. Ronka continued. Love was not the only thing in the room. What does that mean? It means you loved me when my strength reflected well on you. When that same strength opposed you, you treated it like betrayal. Nii looked away. You think people cannot change? I think change is work. I can do the work. Then do it. Hope flickered across his face. Ronka saw it and ended the misunderstanding immediately. Not for me. His face fell. She picked up her folder. You asked for 2 minutes. Ronk. She stopped once more. I am sorry, he said. This time there was no defense attached. Ronka believed he meant it. She also knew meaning it was not enough. Then she walked to the lift. Nii did not follow. Ujunwa returned to the Koka house the following week for her final paperwork. She wore a plain purple blouse and black trousers. No uniform. That felt strange enough. The gate opened for her, as it always had. But this time, she was not reporting for duty. The compound looked smaller from that position. The house administrator met her in the service office with an envelope, a printed breakdown of her final pay, and a reference letter. Ujunwa read every line. Slowly, the administrator waited. 7 years earlier, Ujunwa would have taken the envelope, said thank you, and left. Now she pointed at one entry. What is this adjustment? The 2 disputed days from last month. They restored them. After checking the messages and roster photographs, Ujunwa looked at the page again. Okay. Then she read the reference. It said she had worked in the household for almost 7 years, had handled guest preparation, cleaning, linen, inventory support, and daily household routines, and had been reliable in carrying out her duties. Nothing about the dinner. Nothing about insubordination. Nothing generous either. Accurate. Just as Ronk had asked Bode to make sure it would be. Ujunwa folded the letter. Thank you. The administrator shifted in her chair. There is something else. She turned her laptop around. A draft staff handbook was open on the screen. Ujunwa frowned. What is that? Chief asked us to put the household arrangements in writing. Duties, pay dates, off days. How schedule changes are recorded. How staff can raise a complaint. Ujunwa stared at the screen. The administrator gave a tired little smile. He also asked me why the old roster had so many changes in pen. What did you tell him? That because everybody in this house likes changing plans after I have already made the roster. Ujunwa laughed. The administrator laughed too. Then, the woman's face settled. I should have handled your pay issue better. Ujunwa looked at her. Yes, the administrator blinked. Ujunwa did not soften the answer. She did not sharpen it either, just yes. After a moment, the administrator nodded. Yes, she agreed. That was enough. As Ujunwa left the office, Niyi came down the back corridor. He stopped when he saw her. For a second, both of them looked toward the service stairs, remembering the same night from different sides. Niyi spoke first. You came for your money? Yes, sir. The old title slipped out by habit. He noticed. So did she. He looked at the folder in her hand. Did they sort everything? Yes. Good. Ujunwa moved to pass him. Niyi said, Was it worth it? She stopped. What? 1 night of bravery, was it worth your job? There was no mockery in his voice now, only something raw and tired. Ujunwa thought before answering, I do not know yet. That surprised him, she continued. I have not found another job. My cousin's sitting room is not comfortable. Transport is eating my money. So if you are asking whether courage made my life easy, no. Niyi looked down. But if I had carried that suitcase downstairs, I would still know I helped you do what you did. She held the folder against her chest. That one would follow me longer than unemployment. Niyi's face tightened. Ujunwa did not wait for an answer. She walked past him. At the service door, he called her name. Ujunwa, she turned. I am sorry. Ujunwa studied him, then nodded once. Okay. He looked almost offended by the smallness of the response. She understood. People who apologize after doing damage sometimes expect the apology itself to create a new event. Sometimes it only creates a sentence. Ujunwa left. 3 days later, the boutique guest house in Ikeja called again. They had received her reference. Would she come for an interview? She came early. Too early. She spent 20 minutes at a nearby kiosk, pretending to read messages, because she did not want to sit in reception for an hour and look desperate. The interview was not magical. They asked about guest complaints, stock shortages, staff conflict, and shift scheduling. Ujunwa answered from work she had actually done. When they asked about supervisory experience, she told the truth. Not formally. What makes you think you can supervise people? Ujunwa thought of the Coca roster, covered in crossed-out pen. Because I know what bad supervision feels like from the other side. The interviewer looked up. Ujunwa continued, "And because the work still has to finish. Respect does not mean everybody does whatever they like. It means instructions are clear, changes are recorded, and you do not use someone's need for salary to make them accept anything." The interviewer wrote something down. Ujunwa left unsure whether she had said too much. They did not hire her. That hurt. For 2 days she wondered whether she had been foolish to speak so plainly. Then she applied somewhere else. And somewhere else. A service department company offered her a junior housekeeping role with less pay than she wanted. She considered it. A hotel asked her to return after she completed her certificate. She kept studying. She borrowed no money from Ronke after the first week, though Ronke offered. Instead, Ronke helped her reorganize her CV one Saturday afternoon. Not rewrite her life. Just make the work visible. Inventory, guest room preparation, line and control, shift handovers, training newer staff. "Why did you not put this?" Ronke asked. Ujunwa shrugged. "That is just what I did." Ronke looked at her. "Exactly." Ujunwa smiled. 2 months after the dinner, she finished the hospitality certificate. A week later, a small boutique hospitality company in Ikeja called her for an interview. This time, the vacancy was for housekeeping supervisor. Ujunwa almost did not apply, because the title looked too big. Her cousin made her. "If they reject you, will your head fall off? No, then apply." Ujunwa did. She got the job. Not because anybody called from the Koka family. Not because Ronke bought her a future. The hiring manager liked her experience, her coursework, and the way she answered a question about a staff member repeatedly arriving late. "I will first find out why," Ujunwa said. "Then I will make the expectation clear. If the person still refuses, we handle it properly. But I will not change somebody's shift 3 times and then punish them because they cannot read my mind." The manager laughed. "You have experienced something." Ujunwa smiled. "Yes, good or bad, useful." That answer got another note on the interviewer's page. Her first week as supervisor, Ujunwa spent nearly 2 hours building the staff rota. She checked who had classes, who had a long commute, who had requested a particular day off. She could not grant every request. That was not management. But when she changed a shift, she told the person and recorded the change. No crossed-out squares, nobody could explain later. On Friday evening, she stood in the staff office looking at the finished rota pinned to the board. Names, shifts, off days. Clear. She took out her phone and photographed it. Then she sent the picture to Ronke. "See me. I am now the one making the rota." At that moment, Ronke was on a construction site on the mainland, wearing work trousers, safety boots, and a hard hat. No orange dress, no engagement ring. The Harbour Crown Review had closed properly weeks earlier. The required corrections had been addressed, the project had moved forward, and Ronke's firm had kept her on the team for the final technical handover after the conflict review cleared her professional conduct. She had not become famous. Nobody gave her a company. Her salary did not suddenly triple because she had suffered publicly. Mondays still brought traffic. Clients still changed their minds. Drawings still came back with comments at inconvenient hours. Life had the nerve to become ordinary again. Ronke preferred it that way. Her phone buzzed inside her vest pocket. She stepped away from the noise and opened Ujunwa's message. The photograph filled the screen, a simple printed rota. Nothing glamorous. Ronke zoomed in. Every name had an off day beside it. She laughed. A colleague passing behind her asked, "What happened?" "Nothing," Ronke said. Then she looked at the picture again. "Something good," she typed back. "Supervisor Ujunwa. I hope nobody has to beg you for Saturday." The reply came quickly. "If they beg, it will be because they forgot to check the rota." Ronka laughed louder this time. The site engineer waved from across the floor. "Ronk, we need you here. Coming." She put the phone away and walked back toward the drawings. For me, the part of this story that stays longest is not that a billionaire's son finally faced consequences. Money can make consequences slower. It cannot make every consequence disappear. What stays is something smaller. A woman with very little power was handed an instruction and understood that obeying it would make her part of another person's humiliation. Refusing cost her something real. That is why the choice meant something. And another woman learned that love is not proved by how much of yourself you surrender to keep peace. A boundary is not disrespect simply because someone powerful dislikes hearing it. Weeks later, in a small staff office far from the Coca mansion, Ujunwa adjusted one line on the rota because an employee had an evening class. She crossed out the old shift, wrote the new one clearly, then sent the worker a message so there would be no confusion. After that, she put the pen down and went home on her own off day.